Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lora Rolling and this is part 2 of the Snowing Snowmen ornament tutorial. This is the Snowing Snowmen ornament. It is so cute with all the little snowmen falling. And today we're going to be doing the triangle called 3 buttons. If you haven't done part 1 yet, that's okay. You can do these out of order. I'll have part 1 listed down in the description. So once you finish this one, you can go and watch that one. We just have a few materials to get ready. So let's get them listed and then we can get started. Let's go. So the beads that we will be using in today's video are all Miyuki Delicas. I have the color white pearl, silver lined gold, light sapphire, and opaque black. I'm going to call this one white, gold, blue, and black. We're also going to use some beading thread and a beading needle. I like to use the color Crystal in Eslon Fire, and I use the 4-pound. You can also use 6-pound thread if that works best for you. And then I also like to use a size 10 beading needle. For implements, I use my long nose pliers to hold on to my thread, and then I cut my thread with scissors. And then to end my tail, I like to use the fire method, and I will show you how to use that in today's video. And then we will also need a 2.36 inch plastic crafting ornament. We're not going to use this in today's video, but you'll need it to complete the project altogether. I buy these at my local hobby store in the 12-pack. You can also find them in my Etsy shop if you want to just buy one at a time. Alrighty, that is what we need to start our project today. So let's thread our needle with 3 feet of thread and then we can get started. So I have threaded my needle and now I'm ready to pick up my first 3 beads that are all 3 blue. And then I'm going to take my 3 blue beads and I'm going to slide them down all the way down to the end of the thread until I have about a 6-inch tail. Then I'm going to tie a square knot. So I'm going to cross over on the top and then pull my tail through. And then I'm going to cross over on the top again and pull my tail through. And so now you should have what looks like a little snowman. Now I'm going to put my 2 fingers in the bottom loop that has the beads in it. And I'm going to pull the top loop tight so that it looks like a little knot. Then I'm going to take my tail and I'm not going to touch the tail end to the flame. I'm just going to get it super close, and that's going to melt a little knot at the very end, at the tip. Now I'm going to take my 2 fingers, I'm keeping them in the loop, and then I'm going to pull on the long part of the thread. And as I'm twisting the loop until that little knot lands right and attaches itself right at the long thread. Now I'm going to take my thumbnail and I'm going to just pull that knot down to the 3 beads, making it into a little teeny triangle, and that is the end of row number 1. So we've already completed our first row. Now for row number 2, let's pick up 2 blue beads, and It looks like our knot is right in the center of these two beads. So what I'm going to do is I have my two blue beads. I'm going to set that down, set it aside, and I'm actually going to pull the thread so that the little knot looks like it's coming out of one of the beads. Okay, now I have my two beads on my thread, and it looks like we're coming out of this bead, so I'm going to sew through the bead that the knot is furthest away from. And the reason I do that is because then you want to make sure that those two new beads that you just put on are sitting right on top of those two beads. Now I'm going to add two more blue beads. And now we're coming out of this bead, we're going to sew through the next bead. Making sure that those beads, once again, sit right on top of the two beads they're closest to. Let's pick up two more blue beads. And we're coming out of this bead, we're going to sew through the next bead, and we're also going to sew through the bead right below that one. And when we sew through two beads like this, it means that we are finished with this row and we're ready, and our thread is in position to start the next row. So we have completed row number 2. Let's start row number 3. Let's pick up two blue beads. We're coming out of this bead, we're going to sew through the next. And now let's pick up one blue bead. And we're coming out of this bead, if you'll notice, the next bead is kind of set inward. We're going to skip that inward bead, that's called the down bead, and we're going to sew through the next bead, which is kind of sticking up. We're going to call that the up bead. So we're skipping the down bead, we're sewing through the up bead. Now let's pick up two more blue beads and sew through the next. And pick up one blue bead, skipping the down bead, we're going to sew through the up bead. Let's pick up two more blue beads and sew through the next. And pick up one blue bead. This is our last bead in this row. We're going to skip the down bead, we're going to sew through the up bead, and we're also going to sew through the bead right below it, which means that we're stepping up, and now we are ready to start row number 4. Let's start row number 4 with two gold beads and sew through the next. Making sure that those beads sit right on top of their friend beads. Now let's pick up one white bead and sew through the up bead. Pick up one blue bead and sew through the up bead. If you notice, I turn my work as I go, making it easier for me to sew. Let's pick up two gold beads and sew through the next. Pick up one white and sew through the up. one blue, and sew through the up. Turn my work. We'll pick up 2 gold beads and sew through the next. One white, sew through the up, and one blue, and sew through the up bead and the bead right below it. Finishing that row, now we get to start row number 5. Let's start by picking up 1 gold and 1 blue, and sew through the next. Now let's pick up 1 white, one white, one gold, turning my work. You'll notice that there are 2 beads on each point or corner of our triangle. So I'm going to pick up 1 gold and 1 blue. One white, one white, oops, I just threw my bead across the table. One gold, at the corner, we'll add 1 gold and 1 blue. One white, one white, and our last bead in this row is 1 gold. We're going to sew through the up bead and the bead right below it. And now we get to start row number 6. Let's start with 2 blue beads. If you notice, I am going off of a pattern, and I have that pattern written in detail and posted as a listing in my Etsy shop. So if you prefer to have the pattern right in front of you so that you can read off the paper, you can easily download it and instantly print it by going to my Etsy shop, and I will have it listed right up there for you. Or you can just follow along with this video and whatever works best for you. Alrighty. Let's pick up 1 white, one white, one white, got ahead of myself. Now 1 blue, turn. At the corner, let's add 2 blue beads. One white, one white, one white, 1 blue, at the corner, let's add 2 blue beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, and 1 blue. Sewing through 2 beads, and now we are ready to start row number 7. Let's start with 2 blue beads, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue. At the corner, 2 blue beads, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, 2 blue beads, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, and sew through 2 beads. And now we are ready to start row number 8. Let's start with 2 blue beads, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, 2 blue, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, 2 blue, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, and the last bead in this row is 1 white. Sewing through 2 beads, and now we get to start row number 9. Let's start with 2 blue beads, one blue, one white, one white, one white, one blue, one blue, one white, two blue, one blue, one white, one white, one white, one blue, one blue, one blue, two blue, one blue, one white, one white, one white, one blue, one blue, and one blue. Sewing through 2 beads, and now we are ready to start row number 10. Let's start with 2 blue beads, and let me just pour some more blue beads in a little pile because I'm running out. And maybe a couple more white beads too because I'm running low. Okay. Now I'm ready. 1 blue, one blue, one white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, 'and pull my tail a little bit because it was getting too close to my beads. Let's pick up 2 blue beads, 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 blue, and 1 white. One blue, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, and sew through 2 beads. Now we can start row 11 with 2 blue, 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 black, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, 2 blue beads. Oops, yanked it right out of my own hand. There we go. One blue, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 black, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, 2 blue, because we're on the corner, there they go, 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 black, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, sewing through 2 beads, which means that we've completed row 11. Let's start row number 12. And this is usually where I do the question of the day. I'm going to do something a little different today. Let's mix it up a little bit. Put in the comments your favorite emoji, and I'm wondering how many snowmen there are going to be in the comments. So just your favorite emoji, if it is a happy face or a snowman or a pink heart or a purple butterfly or whatever it is that you love so much, put that emoji down in the comments. Alrighty, starting row number 12, let's start with 2 blue beads, 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 black, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue. At the corner, we'll pick up 2 blue beads, 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 black, 1 white, 1 white, one white, one blue, one blue. At the corner, we'll pick up two blue, one blue, one blue, one white, one white, one black, one white, one white, one white, one blue, and one blue. Let's sew through two beads, and that completes our 12th row. If this is the first triangle that you've done with me, then you have not learned about connecting rows yet. We have connecting beads. Sometimes they're on one side and the other. Sometimes they're not on some sides. This particular triangle, we're going to have no connector beads on this side. We are going to have connector beads on this side, and we are going to have connector beads on the top. So to cap off the corners, we always have one bead, and so we're going to pick up one white bead and sew through the next, which makes that little corner a point. And now I'm going to just flip over my triangle, making it easier for me to sew through these beads. And I'm just going to sew up the beads, hiding my thread without picking up any new beads. I'm going to make my thread go all the way up, following this outline of this quadrant right here until I end in this bead right here. And you don't have to sew through the same beads that I'm sewing through. This is just my preference because I find it easier to sew through the beads that are on the edge of the quadrant. I think there's just a little more space to get my needle through. But if you wanted to, you could sew through any of these beads in this quadrant. As long as your thread is not showing, that's really the point of this mission, right? So let's sew through all of the beads until we get to the top. Then we're going to add another cap bead that makes that top a point. And then we're going to be able to add our next connector beads. The connector beads are very important because those are the ones that once we have all of our units made, we can put them all together without having to add any extra beads, right? So they all connect together with those beads. So that's what we're doing now. We're going to add the connector beads. So now I am at the top coming out of this bead right here. I'm going to add one white bead to cap this corner, making it into a little point. And now I'm going to flip over my triangle again so that I can sew down this side. I'm going to start by picking up one blue bead, one blue, one blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 black, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, and 1 blue. Now we are at the corner again. Let's cap it with 1 white bead. And now we're going to add connector beads down the side. So we'll start with 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 white, 1 black, 1 white, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 blue, and 1 blue. Sewing through the blue bead and then also sewing through that cap bead, the white one, sewing down the next bead. I'm going to flip my triangle over again, and then I'm going to sew through 6 beads without adding any new beads at all. We're hiding our thread again. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now I'm going to do what I call a zigzag. I'm coming out of this bead, I'm going to sew down the bead right next to it, and then I'm going to sew up the bead right next to that one. And what I'm doing is I'm ensuring that this last bead that we added is secure. So I'm actually going to do that one more time. Let's sew up 2 beads, 1, 2, and then we'll zigzag again. Coming out of this bead, I'm going to go down the bead right next to it, and then I'm going to go up the bead right next to that one. Now I'm going to sew up 2 more beads. I feel that that last bead that we added is super secure. It's not going to get loose. It's nice and tight in there. So now let's cut our thread. I'm going to pick up my thread with my long nose pliers. And then I'm going to take my scissors and get as close to the bead as possible without cutting the bead. We're going to snip off that thread. And now we have completed our number 2 unit, and we only need 5 of these. So go ahead and do this 4 more times, and I will see you in a second. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here with me and beading along with me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified when the next video comes out. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for watching.